welcome to County Secrets. We'll be rolling back the years to uncover some of the hidden history in our most familiar counties. This is the Jurassic Coast, because today we're in Dorset. Dorset is renowned for its dramatic fossil-rich coastline and evocative ruins, such as Corfe Castle. Whether you come here for the stunning Thomas Hardy-esque countryside or for the water sports, you're sure not to be disappointed by this beautiful southern county. But what's the secret of its name? So where does the name Dorset come from? The English Place Name Society reckons that the door part comes from a pre-Roman word meaning fist because of the fist-sized pebbles that made up Maiden Castle. The Romans called it Durnovaria. The permanent settlement was Dorchester, and it became the Anglo-Saxon county town. The people who lived around Dorchester were called the Dorset, or the Door people. Our first county secret's all about the tiny village of Tyneham, tucked into a beautiful valley. The secret? Well, it's been an abandoned ghost village since World War II. When the tank was invented in World War I, the British training ground was identified as being Dorset, specifically near Lulworth. The relationship between tanks and Dorset never went away, and by World War II, when 7,500 new acres was needed, that's about 30 square kilometres, it was presumed that Dorset would provide the land. The problem is, in the middle of the designated area lay a village called Tyneham. In order to satisfy the demand for training which would help to save the nation itself would have to sacrifice a village which had existed for a millennium. And typical of rural societies, the families go on and on and on. Many of the people in Tyneham in 1943 would have been able to trace their ancestors back in the same village for centuries. With relatively short notice, the villagers packed up home during World War II, confident that one day they would finally return. As the last of the residents of Tyneham departed, a poignant note was pinned on the church door. It read, "Please treat the church and houses with care. We've given up our homes where many of us have lived for generations in order to help the war to keep men free. One day we'll return and we'll thank you for treating the village kindly." Look at the church and you'd never guess anything had happened at Tyneham. It's just that everything around that heart is broken. Needless to say, the people of Tyneham never did return. What would have happened to Tyneham had it not been engulfed by a firing range in the 1940s? Could it have carried on supporting the same families who'd been here for generations? It could be that these houses would now be full of double-glazed windows, being used as second properties or holiday lets. The thing is, the war may actually have saved some aspects of these buildings. The next time you're rushing to the beach, take a weekend detour and discover for yourself the relics of an entirely disappeared community. About 35 miles inland, and we're in Shaftesbury. You may remember that this street was immortalised as a young boy slowly pushed his bicycle up Gold Hill to the melodies of Elgar. Yes, this back street was put firmly on the media map as the setting for the famous Hovis advert back in the late 70s. And did you know, it was directed by Ridley Scott? Back on the coast at Melcombe Regis near Weymouth. And the next time you're strolling around this harbour, soaking up the sun, just think, over 650 years ago, you may have been running for your life. It's widely believed that the Black Death first got a hold on the British Isles within this town back in 1348. The plague was so voracious, it decimated the British population. "14 miles away in Clouds Hill, our next secret is redolent of the Middle East." In 1923, the great writer T.E. Lawrence, Lawrence of Arabia, needed the time and space to finish his classic work, The Seven Pillars of Wisdom. So where did he go? Cairo, Baghdad, Beirut? He chose Dorset, this little cottage, Clouds Hill. He left two great legacies in Dorset. One was the book, the second I'll tell you about in a little while. But first, let's have a look inside, because to enter that door is to enter the mind of Lawrence of Arabia. These bookshelves would have been lined with up to 2,000 books in Lawrence's day. Instead, there are now photographs which give a really nice snapshot of his life. Look, he's on a motorbike there. He travelled through Arabic lands, understanding tribal and religious culture better than any minister. Now, have a look around this room. You won't find one significant item. What about the loo? Well, Lawrence told his guest, look, I've got a shovel, I've got about 4 acres of rhododendrons, you help yourself. The only house rule is don't do it in front of the windows. Clouds Hill really is 2 up, 2 down. We've seen his bedroom, we've seen the bogless bathroom, we've seen the sitting room, and now there's this. The first ever pantry cum spare bedroom I've ever experienced. The story is that Lawrence didn't like the smell of cooking, so this was really for provisions like bread, butter and cheese, and for keeping guests. Now, he must have realised this all seemed a bit odd, with the aluminium keeping the thing cool in summer and warm in winter, feeling like the inside of a submarine. Lawrence went without many of the material comforts in life, but when he came to Dorset, he traded his camel for a motorbike, and it was a very good motorbike. A Brough was as good as they came. He took trips out into the country, that is until the 13th of May, 1935. That day holds the key to our county secret. It was only about 400 yards from Clouds Hill where Lawrence failed to spot a dip in the road where there were 2 lads with bicycles. He struck one of the bicycles, came off his motorbike and hit a tree. He fell unconscious and died just 6 days later. Lawrence came off the road near this point. What's not explained by the commemorative stone is that his unguarded head took the full impact against the tree. A young neurological scientist called Hugh Cairns was attendant on Lawrence for the 6 days prior to his death. He was really moved by Lawrence's fate, and it's thanks to him, and ultimately thanks to Lawrence, that head protection became mandatory for motorcycle riders in Britain.
At Abbotsbury's monastery, you might expect a history of observing silence. Well, of a sort. This is the oldest mute swanery in Britain. Started by the Benedictine monks in the 11th century, this strangely quiet sanctuary was also used as research by the prima ballerina Anna Pavlova, as she learned to dance like a swan for Swan Lake back in 1929. On the A31 near Winterbourne-Zelston, this red signpost is just one of a handful left in Dorset. Their origins are obscure, but one suggestion is that they began life as simple finger posts indicating a route between prisons for guards ferrying felons on foot. The colour coding has been maintained whilst the signs became more complex to serve regular road users.
Swanage on the Dorset coast is a beautiful, sleepy, peaceful seaside town. You think you'd be a million miles away from the city of London. But the secret to this place is you're always closer to London than you think.
Dorset's major industry for centuries has been stone quarrying, the most famous product being Portland stone just down the coast from here. But back in the 19th century, John Molem and his nephew George Burt were the major suppliers. These 2 men not only helped to build London in the 19th century, but they also salvaged London's architectural waste, through which they brought a little bit of the capital back to the seaside.
This beauty is one of my favourite misnomers in the whole of Britain. It's called the Wellington Clock Tower, but there are prizes for spotting either the Duke of Wellington or a clock. The story is it was built from 1854 as a monument to the now dead Duke on the Southwark or southern end of London Bridge. But the clock never kept time and Charing Cross Railway got in its way, so London had to get rid of it. And it was Burt who decided that he would dismantle it and bring it to Dorset. And here it's been ever since, a little secret part of London on this Dorset coast.
Swanage is littered with the spoils of what amounted to a remarkable act of recycling. The frontage of this building is an incredibly rare 17th century facade from the Mercer's Hall in London City.
Swanage is so full of bits and bobs thanks to Molem and Burt, but this place here is a hot spot because it's Burt's retirement home and it's built from salvage, like these stopper rhino-sized bollards that come from Millbank Prison. In London, you'd never guess it. But once you start looking around the building, its oddity is its defining character. Have a look at the frieze there, the copy of the Parthenon frieze. That was shown in the Great Exhibition in Crystal Palace, 1851. If there's something a bit fishy about this column, it's because that
is a cast iron piece from Billingsgate Fish Market.
But it's not just any old bits and bobs. There's the arch from Hyde Park Corner around here.
The arch from Hyde Park Corner was a bit of Bert's youth regained because as a lad he was one of the carvers on it.
Purbeck House, George Bert's retirement home, is now a hotel, and its back garden has been subdivided into courtyards with rooms around them. But everywhere you look, there are bits of old London, those columns and more of Billingsgate Fish Market. At the end of this garden is a really curious little pavilion. The Grecian columns don't really match the Chinese roof. It's because it's been cobbled together from bits. But the columns are from the toll booths on Waterloo Bridge. Now they take neither money nor passengers, but sit here really quite serenely.
Molem and Bert's final gift to Swanage was this self-made globe, an act that fully put Swanage on the map, and in a way put the map on Swanage. So when you're next flying through the Dorset countryside in a mad dash for the sea and sand, remember that this glorious landscape is home to a vast array of county secrets that rarely see the light of day. Enjoyed your visit to Dorset? Well then pop a postcard in this pillar box. It's the last working example of the first type to appear on mainland England. Hope it's not a secret to the postman.